Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. It's the middle of the week and we have two new champions buffed. I'm fresh out of the shower and I gotta dive in to record straight away. I've got my wizard's robe and everything to work some buff magic, perhaps. Well, Plarium has worked, hopefully, the buff magic. Let's take a look. We've got Fjorad Wolfheart, a mythical. And first up for buffs, it's Togron the Conjoined. Actually, both of these relatively new champions. Let's see what Plarium here. Wait, this is the actual changes. We'll come to that in a second. We're looking at Togron first. This is what Plarium has to say. We're excited to present a fresh look at Togron, a heal dealer, buffing machine, powerful amplifier, and simply a nice fella, or fellas, depending on how you see our handsome double-headed Ogren. After the upcoming update, you'll definitely want to release him from Vault Duty. I really appreciate how they've added quite a lot of style and wit to some of their little blurbs recently, which is cool, because in the past you might just skip them, but they've made them quite fun. His A3 now comes with an improved turn meter boost, A2 lost condition for continuous heal, so there's no condition anymore, and that's not all. We've also ensured his A1 gives you a solid chance to keep your allies buffed. And as for the passive, Togron now increases all allies' HP with each of his active skills used. Okay, cool. Additionally, your allies will deal more damage if their HP is lower than the enemy targets, and even then some if allies have more HP than the target. So let's take a look to see what that actually means. What have they actually done? So here he is. And a quick look in-game as well. These are his reviews. Wow, they are shockingly bad. I don't think he's as bad as that, but yeah, he's bad. He did have a brief moment of fame, this version of Togron. Very briefly, it was during, I think there was a bug with the shield set or something like that. And I think with the Yannicka team, Yannicka's a high elf legendary, and she can basically do more damage the bigger shields enemies have. I think what was happening was you would use Togron, and there was a bug where he could keep spreading and stacking shield sets or something like that. So he would just make your shield grow absolutely huge, similarly to what we do with Titus. But then you would have Head of Mischief steal it, spread it around the Hydra heads, and then Yannicka would explode it. I believe that's where Togron was used. It was definitely somewhere, and it was a bug that was fixed, that he was no longer able to do it. Let's see what we have, though. So Mash and Mangle, his A1 used to be a 20% chance to buff spread. Now, wow, now it's 70%. Does that get more from books? It does. It gets 30%. Wow. He will have a 100% chance to spread one buff from every ally, put it on all allies. Very solid A1. I think that feels good. It's only the one buff that he's spreading. It's not all of them. So being a guaranteed, I spread one buff, that's pretty cool. I think if we check his cooldowns, he's got a 3-turn and a 3-turn. Yeah, he's not doing his A1 all that often unless you're running him with some ally attack. So yeah, he'll work well with ally attack. It's a good A1. Seems good. Not, it's not broken, but it's just really, it's much better now. I think it was pretty unsatisfying before in practice. This seems good. Grubs up his A2. Used to heal everyone, give them increased speed, and would give them continuous heal if they were less than 50% HP. After the initial heal, oh, that's weird. He's got very high HP as well, so this would happen almost never. Again, it's not terrible, but not too exciting. The new version, 20% heal, 30% increased speed. Okay, so that's the same. Puts continuous heal and block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns. That's a massive buff. So this effectively has changed from basically a 20% of his max HP heal, so a big heal and increased speed, and then a buff that would never happen. It now just has a continuous heal and block debuffs added on top. The block debuffs, I think, is the bigger thing. All right, the continuous heal, I mean, it's nice. It's fine. It's some extra healing. The block debuffs is really good. This also makes him, just by itself, makes him insanely strong in the protection set. 9-piece protection, you get 5% damage boost per buff. He's bringing 3 buffs in the one skill. 3 buffs is enough to be a pretty top-tier protection set user, just in of itself. So having 3 buffs in one skill, I see there's another buff on his other. So he will have 4 buffs total. Yeah, that's kind of nuts, actually. Okay, so that's really strong. A 3-turn cooldown, increased speed, block debuffs, continuous heal, and 20% heal. Yeah, that's really good. Brother's Generosity used to be 20% turn meter boost, 50% increased accuracy, and a debuff removal. Good move, actually. Now it's going to be, it starts with the debuff removal, so he removes the debuffs first. So if you had block buffs, it would stop the increase accuracy. It's not going to happen anymore. You will remove it. Okay. I suppose there's the new nullify debuff that stops you getting turn meter boost, doesn't it? I think it does. So yeah, okay, cool. So first you remove all debuffs, then you increase turn meter by 20% plus an additional 2% for every debuff removed. I mean, let's say your team has 3 debuffs on 5 people, 15 debuffs total. That'll be an extra 30%. Wow. That actually gets... I'm presuming... Yeah, I'm presuming it would work like that. It wouldn't be like, okay, let's say Kale has 5 debuffs, he gets 10%, but Elhain has 1 debuff, she only gets 2% extra. I'm guessing it totals up all the debuffs removed on your entire team and then boosts. That sounds small. You're like, additional 2%, what's that? But as we saw, if you got 5 champions with 3 debuffs, I mean, let's say in Hydra, if you got 6 champions with 2 debuffs, that's 12 debuffs. It's an additional 24%. If I'm understanding that correctly. Maybe that's too strong. I don't know. So that's incredibly good. So it's a potentially massive turn meter boost. This is the sort of move that would be particularly good in Faction Wars Hard and in the event dungeon, in Curse City, any future bosses, that sort of thing. Potentially crazy. And then increase accuracy. Okay, that's a really big buff. He's getting a massive buff. Then fill your bellies. This is a very unique passive. I think it's still the only way in the game to increase max HP. He would increase his own max HP by 10% every time he used an active skill, up to 50%, and he would increase allies' max HP by 5% up to 50%, which is just incredibly useful, actually. It's very unique, but I think his kit was kind of underwhelming, so you didn't see this much. This new version increases allies' damage dealt by 10% if they currently have less HP than their target. If an ally's HP is equal to or greater than their target, whoa, their damage dealt is 20% higher instead. That is nuts. That's crazy. I'm guessing this is raw hit points, not like percentage. So, like against PvE content, so Faction Wars, bosses, any PvE content, they always have typically now like millions if not billions of hit points. For clan bosses, billions typically, but probably they've got millions of hit points. Like, you're not going to have millions of HP on your characters, so I think this having more hit points than an enemy is pretty much only PvP, right? But he'd probably help you get there pretty fast because he's increasing your max. I see they've buffed that as well. I'll come to that in a sec. He's giving your champions more max HP. So in PvP, where they have as much HP as you do, you should actually be pretty consistent at getting that 20% damage boost. But I think for most content, he'll just give you 10%. Now, it might be percentage based, which would be kind of nuts. So, for example, if it was percentage based, I could walk into Clan Boss, Demon Lord Clan Boss, or Chimera Clan Boss, like later in the day, after my clan has gone, and the Clan Boss is at, whatever, 0.1% HP or something. I'm always going to have more max HP. I just have 20% damage. So it's probably not that. If it was, it would be crazy good. And you'd even have pretty good uptime against Hydra. I'm guessing it would work against like decapitated heads in that case. I'm guessing it's raw HP, but I could be wrong. We'd have to test it and see. Either way, a consistent 10% flat damage boost is really strong. Again, you put this guy in 9-piece protection, and he would be giving you a 20% damage boost from his 4 buffs and 9-piece protection, and then an additional 10%, which would be a separate multiplier, so it's ever so slightly stronger. But yeah, that's really, really, really good. And again, this extra 10% to make him have him a bit more oomph in Arena, which is cool, because he's certainly not, before this, he was certainly not an Arena meta champion. So let's see this part that's been buffed as well. Increase this champion and each ally's max HP every time this champion uses an active skill. Okay, so it's not... Oh no, never mind. Also increases max HP by 5% every time an ally uses an active skill. Now, big question for me here that's not clear. So whenever he uses a skill, he increases everyone in the team. He gives them 10% max HP up to 50%. That's fine. Is this scaling also capped at 50%? So whenever my allies use skills, they're gaining 5% max HP, but it's just stacking with this to help them reach the 50% cap faster? Or is this a separate thing? Could these two 50% stack and you're giving 100%? Which would be absolutely bonkers. I don't know. It's actually not clear. Either which way. I mean, he's clearly a champion you're going to build really fast. So he's going to be fast. Fast protection, probably the way to go for PvE. And he's probably quite viable in PvP now as well. But yeah, he's just going to be boosting everyone's HP very consistently, which is cool. And maybe you get the separate scaling, which seems busted, if true. I don't know. We'll have to say. There's a couple of things that are unclear, I think, from the wording. But yeah, it's a massive buff. Wow, they really went all out. You know, yeah, they went all out here. It's a huge buff. Would he be good in Arena? I mean, he's definitely good for PvE, no question. What about PvP? Siege, Arena, all that. So he's coming in. Does he have like an aura, actually? I don't remember if he has an aura. He has a 20% in all battles aura. It's a strong siege aura. It's a mediocre arena aura. Full cleanse, massive turn meter boost, increased accuracy. So some bomb synergy there. He's got, like this move, you could use it to go first, but it doesn't have turn meter. So it's a little bit awkward, I would say, in arena, where he's got really good buffs on this move, but you've got the heal and no turn meter, so it's a bit awkward to use that first. This move you could use to go first, but it's just a turn meter boost to increase accuracy. So he's in a weird, I think he's in a bit of a weird spot in Arena where he sort of prefers a little bit to go second. He's sort of like a speed booster who's more going second. Kind of a bit odd. Because you don't really mind wasting the heal against like a clan boss. You're like, okay, I'll use this move first. That's fine. Not a big deal at all because I'll rotate back to it then quicker and might need it at that point. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, no, he seems really, really good though. There we go. Togron, let me know what you think. I think that looks really good. All right, our next buff then is none other than Mr. Fjorad Wolfheart, a champion I actually do own, so I can give you some insight on this. I think he's actually already actually quite good in his base form. His sort of problem is his alternate form just sucks. Pretty much. It's really hard to use. He's reliant on freeze debuffs, but freeze debuffs have very short duration. And yeah, he's just really hard to use. But yeah, wow, these are brutal reviews. Again, I think this is obviously too harsh. I would say his base form is, honestly, it's a 5 out of 5 for Fire Knight, for example. Let's be honest. He's lots of freezes. At the end of the day, he's got AoE decrease speed and freeze, and then he's got AoE block debuffs, increase speed and cooldown reduction, and freezes on his A1. He's a good champion. I've even seen him used a bit with Titus teams because, again, he's bringing you increased speed, decreased speed, block debuffs, and cooldown reduction. It's a very solid kit. But yeah, he doesn't really work as a mythical. The form swapping, he's probably the worst actually for having two forms that just don't work together. You want to build him as a support in Form 1 and a damage dealer for Form 2. And yeah, it doesn't work. Let's see what Plarium have to say about Fjorad. Can they fix him? Let's see. We understand it's not easy being a polymorph magnet in ruthless PvP battles, so we're stepping in to ease the burden. Okay, interesting. They're focusing this on PvP changes, and that's probably fine, actually. Yeah, okay. First off, Fjorad's freeze debuff is now guaranteed to land on Galen Pact champions with every skill that has this effect. The Galen Pact, just to remind you, is these champions. There's more good champions in here now, particularly skinwalkers in terms of arena meta. Mezamel does show up. Gallius is very arena meta, though he is immune to freeze in one of his forms. Marius, obviously extremely meta. Wukong is very common. Nishak shows up from time to time. There's a few in Skinwalkers. Uko shows up from time to time. Orcs, Ashnar, see him a little bit. You obviously have Shayak and Krokad, actually a very strong budget combo. I don't know if it's used in high-end play, but I've seen it actually be quite good. Warlord gets seen a little bit. Raka, tiny bit. For orc rooms only, I guess you couldn't use him against an orc room. Gizmak is very common. You do see a bit of stock, actually. It's kind of fun. Gurgo rarely. I don't know. Hey, maybe we'll see Togron a bunch now after his buff. Who knows? There's a few champs in here. Not a ton. In Lizardman, Lazarius, you see a lot. You see Romantu a little bit. Not too much. You see Sulfurion a lot. The occasional Pythion. Maybe the occasional I've never actually seen Karen be used, but he is there. I don't know. There's a few champs in here. Not a ton. Not a ton, actually. Like a couple of top tier arena picks, but not. I mean, I guess there's not that many. Oh, hang on. I've gone to the wrong thing. We'll come back to that in a second and actually see the actual changes. Cool, though. In his first form, A3, which is his AoE freeze, now delivers a chilling touch to enemies' turn meter, decreasing it by 30%. Okay, and even more against Gale-Impact foes. On top of that, his passive now reacts when allies receive a debuff from enemies, giving you far more opportunities to freeze your opponents, with no per-turn limit on the effect. And as a little cherry on top, we've boosted his base speed. Okay. In his second form, both A2 and A3 have had their damage boosted. Good. A1 now brings Ignore Defense, which increases if the enemy's... Okay, so his A1 also has a massive damage boost, Ignore Defense. His A3 can ignore the block damage buff on frozen targets and offers a chance to freeze more enemies after taking one down. As for the passive, it finally feels complete, now granting a chance to freeze enemies whenever an ally is killed. Ooh, freeze them and avenge your fallen. Okay, gosh, it seems like there's I think they've gone all out on these buffs, man. Let's take a look. Okay. So Fjorad, his base, like I said, his base form was already good. His A1 is cool. Double hit, 50-50 to freeze on each hit. If they're not frozen, repeats it. So against Fire Knight Hard, it's particularly good. It's a 4-hitter always, because the freeze debuff gets removed after every hit, and he can place lots of freezes. What's changing here? Debuff cannot be blocked or resisted if they're from the Gale-Impact. Now, making stuff not be blockable is very strong. It still gets blocked by Stone Skin. Yeah, just cause. But it can't be blocked by block debuffs. Specifically what that means. It can't be stopped by block debuffs. I'm assuming it would also be prevented by intercept. So I guess it might be more accurate to say this debuff will bypass block debuffs, because I think it will still get stopped by other stuff that would typically block it. So, it's just some of the language in the wording of these skills, I think. I think that's probably how it works, I would assume. That's how other similar things work. But no blocks or resists if they're from the Gale-Impact. Off the top of my head, I don't think any of the champions I listed, aside from Pythion, would typically be built with high resistance anyway in the Gale-Impact that are arena meta. Maybe a Raka, if they're doing like an Orc faction unity team. But yeah, not crazy useful there, though it would be, to be fair, in event dungeons. Okay, and in Faction Wars Hard? Yeah, okay, it's actually very good there. But okay, that's cool. Definitely bypassing the block is big. All right, so not too much changing with the A1, but he can freeze people even if they've got block debuffs. Is cool. The A2, so it's still the AoE attack with freeze on all enemies, decrease speed on all enemies, 2 turns freeze if they're Gale-Impact, which is really strong. And it can't be blocked or resisted if they're Gale-Impact. Cool. Then this is new. Decreases enemies' turn meters by 30% if they're from Gale-Impact. Decreases it by 50% instead. Wowzers. Okay. Now, slightly bad thing. One slight problem. If you go up against Marius and he's in Stone Skin, this will just trigger now his A1 counterattack, which can be brutal to a team. So that's maybe bad. Oh, this move also gives you an extra turn, by the way, which is really good. Now, that's really solid, though. So, yeah, the freeze can't be blocked or resisted by Gale-Impact. Nice. And it's now a 30% turn meter pushback. That's really good. And it's a 50%. Like, if they're against Gale-Impact enemies, you will freeze them for 2 turns and decrease their turn meter by 50%. And this move, and they've got decreased speed. He has an extra turn. He's got increased speed on his other moves. Like, you might never get a turn. I already perma CC waves in Faction Wars Hard. I farm stage 20 for dwarves because 21's a little tricky to set up a team. But Fjorad can basically perma crowd control waves just by himself. It's going to be even better at that now. That's nuts. All right. Passive used to be whenever he received a debuff, he had a chance to freeze them, 100% if they're Gale Impact. Now it's whenever he or an ally receives a debuff, he's a 30% chance to freeze. Wow, that is so much better. And the chance increase, okay, and it's not blockable or resistible if the target's from the Gale Impact, and is 105 base speed. That is very, very good. So again, against a Marius, if Marius uses his A3 and stuns somebody, he's got a 100% chance to be frozen. If he places some enfeeble debuffs with his A1, he's got a 100% chance to be frozen. That's kind of crazy. Okay, there's a lot going on here. The 105 base speed, I guess it's 5 more base speed, actually pretty solid. The one thing I'd say to watch out for there is if you have him built in a specifically speed-tuned team for his cooldown reduction, like a Hydra team with Titus or something, it might break the rotation of your team a little bit, so just watch out for that. Just double check your speeds after the buff goes live if he is speed tuned. Otherwise, he's probably pretty good. But yeah, nice buff to base form. I think the biggest thing is the unblockableness. I think this passive is so much better. Wow, he's actually going to be freezing people a lot with that passive. That's actually very strong. And yeah, this turn meter pushback is very strong as well. That's a big buff to Form 1. Definitely makes him a crowd control machine. That is sick. Let's look at his alternate form. Okay, so his A1 now ignores 15% defense. If they're under freeze, ignores 35% defense. I think he still gets... they still have damage reduction from being frozen. But that will help to counter that. But yeah, so cool. And if he kills somebody, it resets his skill. Let me bring up his multipliers, actually. Okay, so if we look at the website here, hellhades.com, his base form scales off attack, which is a bit weird. I mean, he does hit pretty well, but I think he scales off HP in his second form. But yeah, so again, sort of built into that, you could just give him like an attack ring or something, kind of like a Brogni, and he'd hit pretty hard in his base form, and he wouldn't build much HP. Anyway, so he scales off HP in his other form. Yeah, the damage for his A1 was average. It was pretty poor. Ignore defense built in is going to help this hit substantially harder, much harder. But they need, it's just 15% default. That's quite a big chunk. That would make it much better. And the 35% defense if they're under freeze is actually really good. So yeah, that's pretty promising, to be honest. That's a nice buff. His A2, the damage on this one was legendary. I mean, legendary is really not good for a mythical. It's a 0.28 multiplier with a double hit. To hit the double hit, they have to be under crowd control. Now, they can be other crowd control. They could be under true fear and stuff like that, which is okay. But yeah, okay. Interesting. So I've gone to the wrong thing. This has just had its damage multiplier increased. So it would be a better damage multiplier. Yeah, a big problem with this, the damage, if it doesn't get the extra hit, is just dreadful. If it does get the extra hit, it's okay. And what it does is extra hit against enemies under this sort of crowd control. He combos very well with Fabian, for example, who can spam out lots of true fears. Each hit decreases the target's max HP by 25% of the damage inflicted, and decreases their turn meter by 25%, which is pretty cool, actually. And yeah, like each hit, it can do a lot of stuff. You could potentially do 50% turn meter pushback if they're under crowd control, which is very strong. But yeah, the damage used to suck. It got a damage boost. That's probably enough. It's still definitely very reliant on having those debuffs out, which again is a bit of a problem because freeze typically doesn't last that long. Sorry, I zoomed out instead of scrolling down. His A3, Disciple of Torment, this does a lot of stuff. So this was his one good move. This move used to actually be very good. Let's see the damage multiplier. Godlike, yeah. Like we can see, for example, we look at Arena. This is, oh, nice. It's the number 69 move in the game, whereas this move was number 277, much weaker, and this was 1,487, much weaker. This A3 is actually legit, really good before, and this is being buffed, so this could be very good. This used to be 50% ignore defense, very strong, 100% ignore defense if they're under freeze, and it would block revive if they're killed under freeze. Actually a genuinely good move. Now, still the same, ignores 50% defense if they're frozen, 100% defense, and ignores block ignores block damage instead. I got confused because they put the instead in orange as well. This instead is in the base text. Nothing special there. The only change is that it now also ignores block damage. That's cool. So yeah, again, we've had several champions now coming into the game that have this ignore block damage effect, which is great because it gives you counterplay to some really annoying champions, namely like Odin, Siegfried, Nice. There's a few champions that are just so frustrating to play against. We had Gallius buff to be a good ignore block damage champion. What the new Fusion does it as well. We've had a few more champions come in to counter block damage, which is good. He's now another one, though reliant on freeze. If the target is killed while under freeze, puts block revive, still the same, but it will also freeze all enemies for 1 turn, and it cannot be blocked or resisted by enemies from the Gale Impact. Oh, they upped the damage multiplier. Holy shit. This thing's gonna clap. That's gonna absolutely smack. Wowzers. Okay. And then his passive, so I keep zooming out instead of scrolling down, used to be that he would counterattack with Rhyme Cleave whenever an enemy increased the cooldown of any of his skills. When you consider that Rhyme Cleave simply did not hit very hard at all, and how irregularly you get your cooldowns increased, this was just a garbage passive. It was terrible. It still counterattacks, but his A1 does hit a lot harder now. So it's better, but now it has an additional thing. Whenever an ally is killed, it has a 50% chance to place freeze on all enemies for 1 turn, and it's 100% and can't be blocked or resisted by enemies from the Gale Impact. That's actually really solid. So yeah, if they kill anyone in your team, 50-50 to freeze. If they kill 2 people, you get 2 50-50 chances, which is 50 plus 50. It's a 75% chance. Sorry, all statistics can be unintuitive sometimes. I mean, that's simple, so it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, 75%. I mean, if they kill 3 of them, what's 3? I don't know, actually, 50% chances are. Who knows? Guessing is like 87.5. I could be wrong, though. That's just a guess. Let me know I'm wrong in the comments if I am wrong. I don't know. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, no, that's so much better. Wow, that's actually really cool. One of the big problems he had in his base kit here was that he really wanted enemies to be frozen, and he still does really want enemies to be frozen, but he had no way to freeze them in this form. So yeah, you could come in, you could go in, AoE freeze, extra turn, metamorph, and bam, I fire off my skill. It's amazing. And then they unfreeze, and you go, okay, well now I'm in form 2, and my moves suck because they're not frozen anymore. I got, like, you could basically swap over and do this move, and that was it. And you'd be really screwed. Like, if they're under stone skin, this wouldn't work, and blah, blah, blah. Very awkward. He's definitely better now. Yeah. Substantial buffs. So, is he still good for PvE content? Yes, you could still absolutely build him pure support, and he's very strong in this base form. One thing I do like, that 30% turn meter pushback will make him just generally better for other waves as well. He was already just good for wave-based content, even if they weren't Gale Impact. This makes him better. It also makes him pretty good against normal Fire Knight as well, for like an earlier game player who gets lucky and pulls Fjorad. He has a 4-hitter A1 against Fire Knight is great. Increased speed, decreased speed is great. Now he's got a 30% turn meter pushback as well for the Fire Knight. So, and extra speed. So really nice changes there. Form 2. So definitely, like, he is in that slightly weird spot still. Where, you know, let's say I want to use him against Chimera or Hydra. Well, you can't freeze, and you can't generally, you can provoke one Hydra head, but generally you can't place these debuffs against the enemy. So his Form 2 just kind of sucks. So for PvE, it's still sort of that thing where it's like, I'm really tempted just to build on pure support and give him cooldown reduction, high speed, ignore damage, and just focus on Form 1, which means his alternate form is totally useless. What about PvP, which is, I think, where this becomes good? If I built him for Form 2, so we build him probably Lethal and Stone Skin, is he good? Well, we could build him to be, like, slightly slower than an Empress, or we could build him to go, like, after who did I mention? Fabian would be really good with him as well. Someone else to remove their buffs, then he could come in, AoE freeze, push their turn meter back, swap into Form 2, and yeah, you could do I mean, it's slightly awkward, actually. If he opens with his A3, he'll try freeze them all. If you've just swapped from his Form 1, they'll already be frozen. So this freeze wouldn't do anything. If they're already frozen, you've swapped with his extra turn. That's a bit awkward. You could swap form. into his A2. So you could do AoE freeze, turn meter pushback, swap to his form 2, AoE nukes, turn meter pushback, then follow up with his A3, and then start relying on his passive and his A1 a little bit before flipping back into form 1. I don't know. There's some maybe stuff going on. I'm curious. He might still be a little bit awkward. But certainly he's one to watch for sure. I mean, if they keep adding any more really strong Galen pack champions to the game, for example, which I'm sure there will be, like, well, orcs maybe not do anything too new, but I mean, like, they're adding in a lot of ogres. Like, they've buffed what recently? They buffed Togron Diamant, and now we've got Klazag coming in. Wouldn't be shocked if they buff Bellatar at some point. Like, they are trying to make ogres better. Lizardmen are definitely due a mythical. They're just sort of due more legendaries in general. Skinwalkers are good, though. I mean, they could get a strong support mythical as well. It could be kind of scary. They've got good, really, really good damage, but yeah, I mean, they add more champions, like Crocad level champions, whatever. You could start seeing more Galen packed stuff, and he will remain a good counter to it, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, he's kind of interesting. We'll have to test him out and see how he actually works in Arena. I think I like the buff overall. I think this seems pretty good, and I'm excited to try run like a freeze team. Get like Lady Noelle, Sir Nick, Fjorad, and I guess Fabian would fit in as well. I don't know. Yeah, any more freeze champions they add in would help him as well. So he's an interesting one for sure. Fjorad. Let me know. Okay, let me know what you think. So we've got buff to Fjorad, which is substantial enough to both forms. Actually, pretty cool. Hopefully, it is enough to make him good. I think he will be good. I don't think he's like the most OP thing ever, but his base form is great. His alternate form now will hopefully be good, and he will hopefully be like actually quite decent for Arena, particularly Siege and Tag Team Arena. Hopefully so, because that would be fun. And yeah, I think the buff to Togron was massive, honestly. It's a huge buff. I'd actually really, really like to have Togron for Faction Wars. Ogryn is where I am stuck, because the faction kind of sucks, actually. It quite generally sucks. So yeah, it's nice that they're getting more buffs. I think they're both actually really good buffs from the quick glance here. We'll have to test them out to actually see. But on paper, they look really good. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.